of Nairobi, a cooperation agreement which was first denied, altered, then accepted and signed in public in what may well be a journey down memory lane. For those who remember General Badi and the Nairobi Metropolitan Service, NMS, we will be sprinting between City Hall and State House. In another tango, Dr. Oburu Oginga and Senator Edwin Sifuna are facing opposite directions, and the orange that was once seemingly united and vibrant under the late Raila Odinga is serving juices of contestable flavors and tastes. Again, we sprint between Tononoka and Kitengela. In our final words, Bonyo picks a bone with Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen over the ownership of tear gas canisters. On Sam's sense, just how much sense do new stadiums make? We are live from the Kericho Green Stadium. Jamila's memo: election campaigns and promises. Mind the gap. On Kaikai's kicker, Mbadi's treasure discovery at Treasury. Hint, it's 3 letters. And on my take, the early worm catches the bird. Yeah, I know what I said. And worms do fly. It's the tragedy of early campaigns in Kenya. The gang is here.
Backward, never. And we are not going to allow people to pull us backwards. Those who want to pull us backwards, we tell them, oh, no.
Happy New Year, Jamila. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And everything in between that we've missed.
Kid, you know.
You've been missed at this time.
I am happy to be back. Utaniambia while I was away na alikusumbua.
And Tasema. It's everybody else except the boss. I thought
you were the culprit number one. It's good to be back.
Good to have you, and which is why you start us off today with our conversations. Look, a lot has been happening in the country over the last 1 week, including it was cooperation and then it wasn't, and then it's cooperation but it's not ceding, and it's cooperation but it's not usurping. I mean, a lot of English has been put back and forth to try and explain this new working arrangement between the Nairobi County government and the national government. Finally, it all became clear and they put pen to paper to this new relationship, Jamila.
Makes me want to say paukwa pakawa, sahani ya mcheli, giza ya mwizi, kiboko ya mtoto mkorofi, maziwa ya nyayo. There are people in the farthest right
have no idea.
But that's a story for another day. But it's almost like a story. And Yvonne, it actually started, I think, on 8th of February at a church service, AIC pipeline in Nairobi. At the time, President William Ruto and Governor Johnson Sakaja attended the church service and talked about how they were going to work together to restore Nairobi, kuleta huduma kwa wananchi, improving infrastructure, things to do with garbage collection, cleaning up the city, affordable housing. And of course, the governor at that point said, yeah, welcome this collaboration and all that. Barely 2 days later, after that announcement, they were at State House, Nairobi. And they were formalizing what they were calling at the time a shared responsibility formula. And you know, the same thing again, we're going to cooperate in areas of garbage collection, public works, disposal, housing, water supply, and all that, Yvonne. And the denial that the government is going to take over the running of the county, the Serikali Kuu taking over the running of Nairobi county came up. And people were saying, but what does this mean? Serikali Kuu inachukua Nairobi county? And of course, there was the denial you're talking about that, no, this is just for service delivery to the people and all that. And then now this agreement comes in, talks about some 80 billion shillings that the national government will cooperate and will participate in 4 sectors: waste management, road development, housing, and water provision. That there will be a joint steering committee that will be chaired by the Prime Cabinet Secretary with Governor Sakaja serving as vice chair. There'll be other members in there talking about funding. 80 billion shillings was mentioned, Yvonne. And a lot of questions was raised, and I think Gituku will talk a bit more about money that the county has received, especially under this administration, in terms of running it and how it's being spent. But 80 billion shillings was the amount of money that was mentioned. And of course, someone went to court, and we were talking about how this is supposed to be implemented in 14 days, but a day later, someone went to court, 2 petitioners moved to court, challenging its legality and constitutionality, and the court said that the matter was being certified as urgent, ikasimamishwa, no implementation until the matter is heard and determined. But other than that, now there were the political reactions to it. We had Nairobi Senator Sifuna, we had Member of Parliament for Embakasi, one Babu Owino, and several other leaders from opposition. They're saying, no, this deal cannot work as it is, it's not anchored in law. A lot of opposition. To cut a long story short, where it stands now is this. Kuna amri ya mahakama, imezuia implementation for now. But then we had members of parliament from Nairobi who are for broad-based, who spoke today and supported this move, saying we're all looking at service delivery in Nairobi. A lot of questions are coming up in terms of what about all the money that the county has been receiving in the past 4 years? Because when you look at the 4 instances or the 4 sectors where they're going to cooperate, is almost basically everything that needs to have been done by the county government kufikia hapa. But so what has the county government been doing to date that is so bad? Hakuna kitu wamefanya kiasi cha kwamba the national government has to come in and help. Number 2, this is 4 years in. This county government has 1 more year kabla muda wake uishe. Did they have to wait this long to see things are not working out to start looking for help from the national government? And last but not least, it gives us memories of NMS. What that was, the deal that was signed, and what it did. Because some people would say NMS was actually good to this city for a few instances in terms of education and healthcare. We remember some of those healthcare, there was a dispensary, a hospital here, and we could see that there was something happening. But then there were issues to do with corruption, whatever it was, time ilisha, Nemisika vunjiliwa mbali. But what is the difference between that and this? And why now? So maswali ni mwingi, Yvonne. I think we'll discuss this a bit more, but that's just basically where we've come from.
Yeah, and that's a good wrap-up. Let's hear now how they defended this agreement. Now, the words that you've heard with respect to this deal, collaboration, transfer, ceding of power, usurping of authority, all of these words have been thrown with respect to what happened between the Nairobi County government and the national government. But let's listen to the president defending this deal.
There is no transfer of functions happening. For the avoidance of doubt, I have no interest in running the city of Nairobi. My hands are full. The governor and his team must run the city of Nairobi.
And the governor saying the same thing, collaboration, not transfer.
This is not a transfer of functions, as happened during the NMS time, which was a misadventure that left this city with a 16 billion shillings pending bills whole, and which did not augur well with the true spirit of devolution. It is not a transfer, but a collaboration, which is encouraged and which holds true regard to the mandate given to both of us by the people of Kenya and the citizens of Nairobi.
And before we hear from the president about that Metropolitan Police, I'd like us to go to Sakaja again, just down that list, talking about why they came together to do this deal.
We have come together between the national government and the county government in the interest of the people of Nairobi. Umoja ni nguvu, utengano ni udhaifu. Tuendelee ama tusiendelee?
All right, so they say they did this in the interest of the people of Nairobi. So how will this work? And I think that's the bone of contention here. I remember speaking to Faith Odhiambo, who's the outgoing president of the Law Society of Kenya, saying exactly that. You would start to understand what this relationship is based on how it'll be implemented. And that's where there's a lot of questions, Sam. There's committees that are being formed, there's people who are in it, there's numbers, there's representation. At least on the outset, it looks like the national government has pretty heavy representation and is quite in charge.
Right, it has quite a major hand in this. And just to mention here that When, excuse me, when the Nairobi Metropolitan Service was being established, I think Governor Sakaja was actually present at State House. That time he was the Senator of Nairobi. He was witnessing the signing of that arrangement between Governor Mike Sonko and, of course, the President of Kenya that time, Uhuru Kenyatta. But obviously, this has not started yesterday. You recall that back in 2017, there's a team that was formed by the name Nairobi Regeneration Committee. I believe it was on 8th of November 2017. In essence, what was supposed to happen here is similar work like what we are seeing. A lot of senior government officials then, you recall there was the Tourism Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala, there was Transport Cabinet Secretary James Macharia then, there was Lands Cabinet Secretary Farida Karone, there was Kiriako Tobiko who was the Cabinet Secretary for Environment. They came together in an arrangement that was supposed to see the committee regenerate Nairobi. There were many things that were supposed to be done, from garbage collection and management, from Nairobi river cleaning. They also supposed to yes, they're also to fix some roads, and I think the president even went ahead to launch some 2.7 billion worth of tarmac roads in the city.
And those the same functions?
It's the same thing, and if you have to look at even that time, there were more serious consequences, because I remember that around April 2018, the technical committee came forward and said that they had been instructed by the president that if they were not going to deliver within a month's time, they were supposed to resign. Well, they never resigned and they never performed. But in 2020, then there was that arrangement. March of 2020, the Nairobi Metropolitan Service now was established. And like I said, the Senator of Nairobi was present to witness the signing of that. And you must have said, I'm saying this because you saw the Senator of Nairobi this time round, Edwin Sifuna, saying that he has no information. He was not consulted. He was not involved. He was complaining about this. But then the NMS was supposed to, actually, these functions are transferred. The health functions, transport services, public works, utilities, and what they called ancillary services, but also planning and development departments are also supposed to be transferred to the Nairobi Metropolitan Service. And later that year, which is December 2020, if I'm not mistaken, Governor Mike Sonko was impeached, was removed from office by impeachment. But then the process of NMS continued. I don't want to go into the history of what transpired, because even after impeachment of Mike Sonko, a new governor was installed in some unique circumstances. If you remember Governor Kananu coming on board, by her coming on board, there was also transitions in the county assembly. So a lot of significant changes that happened. But coming to now the collaboration or the cooperation agreement between the national government and the Nairobi City County government, you're looking at two levels of governance. There's first the steering committee, which is chaired by the Prime Cabinet Secretary, who is deputized by the governor of Nairobi. At least for the technical committee of Mike Sonko, Najib Balala and Mike Sonko were co-chairs. This time around, you'll find that Musalia Mudavadi is the chairperson, Governor Sakaja is the vice chairperson. I'm just looking at the details of the other CSs who are supposed to be in this, because you'll find that it's pretty unique, because you have a whole 8 members of the National Government Cabinet, National Executive, sitting in to preside over matters of Nairobi. And yes, they are saying that they'll be meeting once every quarter. But just to highlight who those members are, you have the PCS Mudavadi as the chairperson, you have CS's Murkomen, John Mbadi of Treasury, Alice Ohome, Deborah of Environment, you have Muga from Water, Opio Wandai from Energy, and of course the Attorney General Drokas sitting in that steering committee. Now, if you have to look at even the statement, what has been put in paper in that agreement, you find that the governor as vice chair, the county attorney as a member, then 2 unknown representatives from the county government to be nominated by the governor. So one wonders, what was the rush? You already know which cabinet secretaries will sit in the steering committee, but you have no idea who from the county is supposed to be nominated by the governor. Why did Governor Sakaja allow this? That you have a document going out, you're saying that you'll do public participation, but you don't know who is supposed to sit there to represent you. And also, of course, saying that any other members that the committee may agree to incorporate. But then you come to the implementing committee, or the implementing team, which is chaired by the governor of Nairobi, that is Johnson Sakaja. But then who are the members? The members of that implementing committee, you have principal secretaries, many of them, PS Omolo, PS Chris Kipto, PS Hinga, the roads PS, environment PS, water and sanitation PS, energy CS, the Solicitor General, of course, who works at the Attorney General's office.
State law.
And then you have a representatives of the Executive Office of the President is supposed to join the implementing committee chaired by the governor of Nairobi. At the same time, what do they say? That all CECs of the county government of Nairobi in their corresponding functions will also be members of this implementing committee. Again, what was the rush that you have the national government listing who from its side is going to sit in this implementing committee, but you have no luxury of time to list which CECs, to say corresponding functions. What exactly are you saying? Why don't you just list them? They're not many. They're about 10 or so, if I'm not mistaken. Why not just list them? And then you say that County Solicitor General will also sit in it, and so I find that peculiar, why you'd go ahead to publish something. But at the same time, when it comes to the oversight or the management of all these, whatever arrangement it is, so who does the oversight? Is it the national government, in this case, National Assembly? Is it the county assembly? In which case, has the county assembly sanctioned this?
Yes.
Because you cannot oversee that which you do not know. Even if they are saying that there will be what you call public participation, that does not say county assembly's participation.
And what about the role of the Senate then?
Exactly. The role of the Senate is also unknown. They are saying that they will sit down and agree on the source of resources. There can only be two sources. It is either from the national government or the county government. Why is it not stated so that you also know who is going to do the oversight? I just wanted us to look at some numbers of what has been happening the past few years, because Nairobi County, I don't know if Governor Sakaja knew what he was getting into when he ran for election in 2022. Because if you look at the slide that is on screen, it shows you the Nairobi finances for the budget of 2024-2025. This is a budget that was drawn by the governor of Nairobi and implemented up until June 2025. So you find that recurrent expenditure was 29.3 billion shillings. What did the county spend? All of it, 100.4%. The development budget was 14.6 billion shillings. What did the governor spend, or the county spend? 4.09 billion shillings, which is just 28.7%. And this is repeated in several years that are preceding even Governor Sakaja's tenure in office. So you find that you draw a budget of 43 billion shillings, you only implement about 33 billion shillings. And there's an explanation to that, because there are challenges when it comes to collection of own source revenue in the county of Nairobi. Let's take a look at what is on screen, because you find that much of the recurrent expenditure actually goes to paying salaries. That is the employees' compensation, about 17.4 billion shillings. For operations and maintenance, this is running the office, running the government. It's taking up to 10.4 billion shillings. So out of the resources available of about 31.7 billion shillings, 27.8 billion shillings is going to total recurrent. Of course, leaving, now this is the development expenditure for the executive wing of the Nairobi County government at 3.9 billion shillings, which is just 12% of the resources available to the executive of the county government. So this is serious. And I'm sure Governor Sakaja knows this. And this is why he's making those decisions. And there's another slide that we would have looked at when it comes to the own source revenue, which is slide number 2. It will show you the target. So in 2022-2023, I think this was the transition year between the previous administration and that of Governor Sakaja. So the target was 17.7 billion shillings. But how much did the county actually collect? It was 10.5 billion shillings. 2023-2024, up until June 2024, the famous June 2024, the target was to collect up to 19.9 billion shillings. How much did they succeed to collect? Just about 64%. For the financial year ending June last year, June 2025, the target was 20.4 billion shillings. How much did they collect? About 66%. If you look at this gap, it has direct impact on the development budget implementation in the county government of Nairobi. So who is fooling who? There's a possibility that the county government of Nairobi has been inflating the own source revenue target so as to sit in, so that you have at least 30% of your budget going to development expenditure. But when the rubber meets the road, in this case, You collect the revenue, money from the national government has come in. Of course, the money from the national government comes in full, almost 20 billion shillings, more than 20 billion shillings. So that comes in. The Nairobi is unable to collect the full on-source revenue. What suffers is the development.
Yeah.
The governor cannot explain why he has been unable to develop several parts of the city, whether it's water access, whether it's road access, whether it's garbage collection, because some of it may actually require some investment which may be falling under development expenditure. But then, is this the best way to approach the national government to come on board and help? Why are we not seeing deeper conversation going into this? We just see an agreement signed in State House, communicated, and then everyone who has a different opinion, a few words are being thrown at them.
Yeah.
There's a problem.
And Yvonne, I'm sorry, just on the same note, since the deal was signed, we've had the president or the governor defending it almost every single day since then.
Yeah.
Governor Sakaja, yesterday there was the tour in Lakisama, the two of them were together defending this. The president today was at the County Assembly's forum, defended it. Governor Sakaja was at Radio Citizen in the morning, defending it. Then we had this broad-based members of parliament from Nairobi defending it. There is that line in the Shakespeare play, said, the lady doth protest too much.
Now, speaking of that, that's what everybody has said in its defense, and let's listen to those who have a differing opinion, and starting with the senator of Nairobi County, talking about why he's opposing this deal.
They are saying any amendments that will arise from the public participation will be included. They are not anticipating a scenario where the people of Nairobi say, we are rejecting the entire thing.
And then he talked about the legal mechanisms.
So we are saying, shelve this thing, go through a proper process. There are legal mechanisms for you to channel money if the need of Nairobi, for instance, has been identified as unique.
Member of Parliament for Embakasi, Babu Owino.
You say, e-garbage, I want it to be cleaned. Is that a unique challenge? Sweeping and collecting garbage. Is it a unique challenge, Leto? Yani you say, I want to create jobs for Nairobians. Is it unique?
Of course, there's the issue, and we'll listen to him in just a moment, but he raises the issue of the composition of these two important committees, the steering committee and the implementation committee that you've just talked about, very heavy-handed on the side of national government. The steering committee has how many members from national government? 8?
8.
While national government has 3, and with the technical committee, again, right? The number of those representing national government, that's at PS level, much higher than those of the county government. Babu Owino had something to say about that as well.
Cabinet secretaries are in this. That tells you that there's a complete takeover. A complete takeover.
Yeah, Bonya, so here we are, those for, those against it, and I don't know if, like Jamila was saying, the popularization campaign that followed the signing was an attempt at public participation. It seems that's how we do things in this country.
I'll leave, Yvonne, the test of this to the expert. But let me speak as somebody who probably understands communications and what needs to be done. Johnson Arthur Sakaja campaigned on the platform of sending away General Badi home, NMS. And in his own words, he had promised to return the management and running of the affairs of the county to City Hall, which he did. Barely 1 year into the next election, he has come back to embrace the very skunk that he had promised to kick out of County Hall. So that makes you ask a very, very important question. Why? The other thing that I must also say is that if you look at the rush through which this has been passed through, it raises the concerns, just like Sam and everybody else is asking. Where are they going to? 4 years later, where have they been? Didn't they see this from day one? I mean, look at it from this way. 2 weeks ago, when the president initially intimated about this, I would have expected Governor Sakaja to first of all sit down his MCAs
Yeah.
and inform his bosses who are the Nairobi city residents about this and tell them the why. Because I still don't see the why the national government is cooperating with the county government of Nairobi to achieve this.
Do you say cooperating?
Cooperate.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, so basically, just try to help people understand, because every Nairobi resident and every Kenyan deserves an answer. I mean, this day and age, information is not the preserve of the 1 o'clock bulletin or the 7 p.m. news. It's all over. We can read, understand some of these documents. And by reading that cooperation, you clearly see the rush that was in it. That even the county government is yet to second people to those committees. You are only told they will. When? When you look at the space given for public participation, 14 days, I mean, that's just 2 weeks.
Also, the public participation after the sign.
After the signing.
I thought it would be...
Should have been
before.
the other way around, in good measure.
Yeah.
Coming more to the substance of it, I really see an accountability ambiguity in this. Because, like NMS left Nairobi with a pending bill of about 100 billion, who takes responsibility if this fails? Is it Sakaja and his team? Is it the national government? Is it that committee that is supposed to oversee it? Who bears that responsibility? We deserve to know, because without that, then we will be operating in an environment whereby everybody wants to pass the buck. It was not my responsibility, it was not my plan, it was not, you see. So I think there's an opportunity that they shelve this and take it through the due process. I don't know if they're patient enough to do it, but it will really serve their cause, because, again, that 80 billion shillings is not generosity. It's taxpayers' money. How are they going to draw it? From which vote head in the budget? Already, we're in the budgeting process for the 2026-2027 financial year. I don't think I saw that in the budget policy statement. I don't know at what point it will come. And if it does, then the Senate has a role in asking questions about funds that are going to be committed to the county government, because Senate oversights those devolved structures. Yvonne, it is important to say that the framers of this constitution knew why they say they wanted 47 governments plus 1 government, to give the independence to counties to operate and develop, not for the executive to use its own architecture to try and manage and control functions at counties.
You know, you mentioned something interesting, because as we're getting into, you know, the next financial year, all those sector working groups have already started making their presentations. Ministries are also going before the parliamentary committees to say, you know, we've seen this allocation, we want more. I believe even today, the CS for Agriculture was saying, no, I want 140 billion for agriculture, as opposed to the allocation of about, what, 75 billion or so. So where does this one come from? Or is this supplementary between now and the end of the financial year? But again, Jay, you raise a very important issue about process. And Linus, just like almost everything that this administration puts its hands to, the one question has always been about the how. Was due process followed? Is this, you know, legally sound? And like clockwork, the next day, petition in court seeking to halt this process until that matter is heard and determined. I don't want to cast aspersions on this one, but it's the same thing over and over about how you do it, about putting the cart before the horse, about when you tell people, when you don't, when you sign something, and then you come and say, but this is what we've done, and any naysayers are told, or any of a contrary opinion are called naysayers. Same cycle. And just about 18 months to an election.
There are two tragedies that have been exposed by the events that we are witnessing the last 1 week. The first tragedy is that of the city of Nairobi. The city of Nairobi, 63 years of independence, 5 presidents, 5 governments, has been subjected to a trial and error mode of management. It's all trial and error. And it is President Ruto's turn and Governor Johnson Sakaja's turn to subject Nairobi to this trial and error way of running it. Because I do not see a clear flight path on this. Because the first thing that we notice with this cooperation agreement is it's about basics, not complicated things, including garbage collection. There's a way Babu, pronounces it that makes it sound like garbage. It's actually.
So garbage sounds nice.
It sounds,
The way it says it.
Yeah, it sounds like garbage. And this trial and error, unfortunately, has gone on for far too long. And for development, what we've noticed, if you look around the world, is the first model of your development is your capital city. How is your capital run? And you'll get a feeling of how it is run as a visitor, for example, starting from the airport to the road that you'll use into the city. There used to be something called the city gates. Where is the city gate of Nairobi, for example? It's tragic. We are exactly where. And I want to just mention that commission for the for purposes of revisiting history. Nairobi has been run by appointed commissions. In President Moi's 24 years in rule, 12 of those years, that is half his time, Nairobi City was run by appointed commissions. And the reason is exactly the same as today. Incompetence of the body that is supposed to actually run that city. When you have these cooperation agreements between the City Hall and State House, the first thing, red light that should go on is that of competence of City Hall, because you're asking for help. And that's the first tragedy. I was talking about 2 tragedies. The first one is just how Nairobi is run. It's run on a trial and error basis. Tragedy number 2, in my view, is that of the laziness, political laziness that we have structurally. Because when drafters of the Constitution introduced devolution, they actually said, let's take power and resources to other levels other than the central government. What do we see? We see the regions, the 47 counties rushing to the center again for help. And Serikali's idea, Mr. President, do this and that. In fact, I remember one time President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi getting frustrated about the state of our multi-party politics, and he said that Kenyans are a bit like a chicken that has been tied on their legs and taken to the market. Once the string is removed, it doesn't go until you kick it.
Yeah.
Now, how many times does Nairobi county government have to be kicked for it to take off? This is the 3rd time, I think. The last time, maybe Evans Kidero, as the first governor of the post-2010 constitution, maybe tried. But then after that, we have this signing of agreements. A signing of these agreements is a surrender document in terms of that devolved function. The devolved unit is basically saying, my hands are up, I can't run this place, come collect the garbage. It is a shame, and I think this is not something President Ruto and President of Nairobi, it's supposed to be. If they think that way, you've seen they drive in convoys that are actually almost presidential. And Governor Sakaja, they should not be proud popping out of those land cruisers around Nairobi, telling Nairobians how they are changing the mode and the model of collecting their trash and running, I think, some sewage pipes along Nairobi River. Go do it. In fact, this is supposed to be the time to work now. You've signed it. As you wait for the court to make a decision on whether that was proper in the first place and legal in the first place, how about actually getting to those offices instead of the SUVs to work on what you had promised to do? What does a city resident in which slums were they in yesterday?
Lucky Summer.
Lucky Summer. What more do you need from Lucky Summer? You've signed it.
Get to work.
Yeah, get to work. Go collect trash, because I think collection of trash is coming out as the greatest national mandate that they'll have to execute. This is shameful. But again, those are the two tragedies. Tragedy one is Nairobi is a trial run on a trial and error basis, and it's showing from the airport to even Karen, which is supposed to be high-end. Do you know, Yvonne, in those leafy suburbs, there are no footpaths. You have to share the road with... Vehicles share the roads with pedestrians. Yeah, what do we call in? Maybe KDF to expand it? I don't know. And that's a tragedy. Tragedy number two is it's structural laziness. There is a mind of single-party mentality that is still here, where basically the president is overworked. He has to function the same way Jomo Kenyatta functioned. He has to function the same way President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi functioned, because the units that are devolved can't do it. They can't collect rubbish. They need the national government. They need a cooperation agreement, which they deny, by the way, first, and say, no, we don't want to. It's not that we have not handed over. So, if you have not handed over, who is collecting your rubbish?
Wow. And then, Yvonne, when you talk about MCAs here, a quick one. Today, there was a press conference by some MCAs, Nairobi MCAs, wakimtetea governor saying he's not going to be impeached. Yesterday, there was now talk about impeaching him following this deal that he has signed, because some MCAs were saying they're showing, it's clearly showing that he's unable to govern, he's unable to run the county. This reminds me about something that happened in November last year. And that was around in September. I remember in September, there was a time when there were threats to impeach Governor Sakaja. Yep. And during that time, former ODM party leader Hayati Raila Odinga and President William Ruto rescued Sakaja from a plot to oust him by the county members of the county assembly. And then the talks of State House having a bigger role in running Nairobi County came up again in November. That was then. And then after this deal was signed, just yesterday now, there was a section of members of MCAs who had said they wanted to impeach him because it shows that he's unable to run the county, all those reasons that Linus gave, basic services like garbage and all that, he's unable to do it. But today, MCAs wamekuja wamesema, hatumwondoi, number one, we are for the deal, we support it, this is very good for Nairobi, services will be provided and all that. So, sauti zifo hivi. Jana, tuta kumwondoa, leo yuko sawa. So, sijui nini happened in the past 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You know, as we take a break, the one thing about devolution for me that stood out was two things. One, funds follow function, right? So money goes from the national government to the county government. But also, most importantly, it was to... Sorry?
People follow funds.
That's what it looks like. It is. Yeah.
People follow funds.
That's what it is with this one. And sadly, it was that you were taking the decision-making right down to the people, that they decide for themselves in Nairobi what we want. In Wajir, this is what we want. Did the people of Nairobi make this decision?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And that's a good point you're raising, because it's one of the points the petitioners are raising is that of public participation. And you know, public participation is either direct or delegated. In this case, delegation would have been to the MCAs. County Assembly of Nairobi. Have they been involved? They have not been involved. And I think that the court will not take notice of press conferences. The court will be guided by what is the process that went on in the chamber. That's why they have that chamber. It's completely separate from that press conference table. It's in there that now you're supposed to debate and maybe vote and you know, go through the proposals in a nice, civilized way that captures what public participation ought to be.
Right. I mean, do they even say, no, we want garbage, or we want this, or we want that, or these are the functions, these are the ones we think we need help with, these are the ones we want to stay at the county government level? some important questions. Other questions that are coming up after this break is just what is happening in the country. So much violence that is taking place at rallies, at churches, at various gatherings. Well, I should add, at some gatherings, not all of them. Taking a break, we'll be right back.
Yule mtu amefukuzwa ODM anaitwa nani?
Sifuna. Edwin Sifuna.
Kwani huyo Sifuna ndio nani?
Mimi ndio Sifuna.
Sikuoni vizuri, hebu songa hivi.
Munaniona vizuri? Mimi ndio Sifuna.
Oh, ni wewe William, unajua Sifuna?
Hapana, no. Mheshimiwa Rais, mimi ndio Sifuna.
Sifuna anaongea na nguvu.
Personally there is no way I can support Ruto.
Wakati unaongea mambo yangu Sifuna, ujue mimi ndio mwanzilishi wa ODM. So naenda polepole kidogo.
So means wewe ndio ulipanga Sifuna afukuzwe?
Kabisa.
Jesus. Hivi ndio tulianza hii kitu.
Lakini kuna zingine, Mheshimiwa Rais, wanasema Waswahili, mwiba wa kujidunga hauambiwi pole. Kazi yako ni
has tear gas.
Indeed, a worrying state of affairs in this country at the moment with respect to gatherings. And like I said before the break, it's some of the gatherings, not all, that are subjected to an inordinate amount of violence. And mysteriously, nobody seems to know who's behind this violence and who's done it, and who's hurled tear gas canisters, who's firing live bullets outside a church or a rally. And now I believe, or I fear, that the word goons has become like the proverbial devil, the devil who's blamed for everything. I ate this, it's the devil made me. I had a bad thought. It's the devil that put the thought in my head. Now it's goons, this mythical figure that just seems to appear everywhere. And nobody, not the police, not the Ministry of Interior, no one. I mean, they're like these ghosts that just come out of nowhere and then poof.
Actually, there are some thoughts from the Interior Cabinet Secretary, Kipchumba Murkomen. He has ideas of what's happening because he says that he suspects that there are some rogue officers who are colluding with civilians to illegally supply tear gas canisters.
Indeed. Now there's another ghost, rogue officers. Who are they? Can't be that hard to find out who they are. I mean, surely.
And even like when we were watching what was happening in Kitengela, I mean, there was this meeting going on. We have the pictures on here. There we go. You had this whole crowd on the streets with the politicians on top of the vehicles, and then suddenly the chaos, the tear gas. And a 28-year-old man died. Cause of death, gunshot wounds. You have businesses that got disrupted. You have they were showing even bullets that had been fired. And of course, the question to ask is, who has guns in this country? Who has bullets in this country? Who's able to fire them in this country? Political intolerance is a word that's being used a lot lately, because I think a day or two after what we saw in Kitengela, there was another political meeting in Nyamakima, right at the heart of the city. And then there was also tear gas that was thrown, and of course mkutano ulisambaratishwa, as we say in Kiswahili, Yvonne. And then these two meetings were meetings by those who are opposed to the government. The government has had political meetings, like those who support the government. We cover them all the time. Yeah. Those meetings go on smoothly. No disruptions. Whatever needs to be said is said.
I mean, even in Lakisama yesterday.
We had the whole day. It went really, really well. Afterwards, of course, we had a story about looting, but that was totally different. Yeah. It went well. We see this happening, and I know I keep thinking about even how this weekend we have some rallies in Western, by this other side called Linda Mwananchi. I think even the ODM has another meeting also there.
Which ODM? Sorry.
Yes, samahani. Wale walioko katika broad-based, kuna hao wengine pia. So how will that be? And if this is the trend going forward until 2027, when we're supposed to have official campaign periods ending, because even official campaign periods should not have been going on now. Kila mtu hafai ku campaign saizi, but they all are. Tutakuwa tunaona hivi all the time. Will we be seeing this intolerance? Will we be seeing the tear gas? Will we be seeing more victors dying? Will we be seeing disruption of meetings? Or are we going to let people continue? Because as I said, campaigns as if haikufanyika saizi kisheria, but we are seeing them all over the place, both sides. I know you're going to talk a bit more about that in your take, but then where are we going? Yesterday there was a meeting by the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, Mzalendo Trust, under the Uchaguzi platform, and they were talking about how they're witnessing election violence during political rallies and why this is happening now, and why IBC is not taking any action to disqualify some of these people who are implicated, who are involved, because we're seeing all these things on video. Tuko na video evidence. Wakitaka kuuliza nani walikuwa katika political rally meetings, the campaigns, wakuje tu tutawapea video. Something needs to happen, Yvonne, because we cannot continue like this. Already it's starting to get stretched a bit too thin. Itapasuka, itakatika na itawachana, and we'll have maybe more people losing their lives, unfortunately.
Indeed, and Thego Mutai, who's the moderator of the Presbyterian Church of East Africa, PCA, is asking that very same question. We seem to move from one scene of violence to another with very little accountability.
Like what happened in Hause? Nobody has been arrested to date. Are they waiting for us to forget that that happened? Yet it was a very ugly thing. We need people arrested and taken to court, and the due process of the law taking its course.
Now that was Hause, and then there was Kitengela. Let's listen to Senator Edwin Sifuna on just what happened at his rally on Sunday.
Wakora waliingia kwa stage yetu asubuhi wakavunja mitambo yetu. Ati kutuzuia tusiweze kuongea na nyinyi.
So that's what happened there, and several others have come out to condemn the violence. And I want you to notice as you listen to who's condemning or calling out the violence. It's all coming from one side of the political divider. Let's listen to retired Justice David Maraga.
Those people were having a peaceful meeting. There was no cause whatsoever. There was no breach of peace whatsoever. The government has just panicked.
And Member of Parliament Ndindi Nyoro also had something to say.
But we cannot continue to operate in a situation where people imagine they can manage how Kenyans think and associate using tear gas. That is not going to work.
Right. Now, you see, the people who are calling out the violence are the victims of it and those on the other side of the political divide. You very rarely hear regret for violence caused, regret for injuries, for loss of property or damage to property, loss of lives. That's not what you hear from the other side. Instead, what you hear is lots of this.
Important to report to the police officers in good time. That also was unfortunate that the report was not given to the police officers so they can provide security. People carrying guns from Nairobi, mobilizing them from Machakos to take them to a rally. Why didn't you go and address the people of that area? Why take it to Kitengela?
Okay, so they seem to know all of these things. They're goons. Remind me, any arrests from the Hause incident?
None.
Kitengela?
Zero.
Kuna maandamano Ijumaa.
Well, oh yes, tomorrow the party leader for DCP. I mean...
Is that so? I thought a statement from Kalonzo Musyoka saying that they're no longer the National Police Service.
Going.
I'll get it. Just carry on, JB. I'll get it.
They say that they're going for private prosecution of the officers involved because they have their names and identities and all that.
Yeah.
But, Yvonne, it's 2026. There are better ways of dealing with your political opponent rather than using state-sanctioned violence. I doubt if this is what happens in Singapore. Because you can't continuously keep your opponents on the edge for simply trying to sell the agenda that you claim they don't have. Because why do people go for these rallies? Why do people make pitches? It's simply to the public, to their side of thinking, to see their side of reasoning on why they're opposing the current regime. So why don't they be left to do that? And it's interesting to see CS Murkomen Kipchumba indicate that they know that people are being ferried from one place to the other. It tells you they have the intelligence. Why don't they thwart it?
No, but they know only up until the identities of the people. Like, that part sort of remains...
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Yeah, it's you know, it's like those images where, tell us what animal this is, it's a giraffe, but you blacked out the eyes.
Exactly. Click the 4 boxes that has a car, and then you... I mean, the state needs to act better.
Yeah.
There's a place for free and fair contest in our electoral laws, and that needs to be upheld. That is the only way we will look at ourselves as a people and have the moral authority to condemn our neighbors who are doing worse than what we are seeing here. Anything short of that, clearly, we are either sliding to that direction or we are already in it, only that the scale has been reduced. I want to challenge the Interior Minister that not all political activities do issue what he calls police notices. I don't think so. I don't think all the impromptu rallies that the president holds, the local police are not.
Does he give notice?
I mean, so if they want to encourage fair contest, then they should let these people converge, speak to the people who love them, adore them, and ultimately the Kenyan people will make that decision. Anything that we are seeing currently is simply sliding us into anarchy, because just like Murkomen says, these guys would start arming themselves, because I see him encouraging it. I see him saying that there are people doing it, ex-police officers and all that. They know they're not acting. What if
power? And the president himself, many times, stupid people, fools, are no longer in Kenya. Meaning they can see, Kenyans, even ordinary Kenyans, can see right through that tear gas smoke, and they can see what is going on. When you don't arrest, you have no arrests, and then you want to step out, as CS Murkomen does, to sound tough about some imaginary offenders. Well, are they imaginary? If indeed these are goons that you are condemning, you have the state powers to actually arrest them and prosecute them. That is the only way he needs to prove it. But let's address the National Police Service for a moment. The National Police Service has to really make up its mind to decide whether you are a National Police Service or a political militia. Because we've seen this repeating itself over and over again, where in election times and in election scenarios, the police service or a section of it converts itself into some form of militia that acts in favor of a political side. Because this planting of tear gas canisters, this is not anything new. The only thing that they need to realize is this is not a sustainable model. But they also need to understand that in a political democracy like we are, there is a difference between state and government. State is where they sit as police officers. State is in perpetuity. It's supposed to preserve this country as is for generations and generations to come. Meaning your responsibility is greater than term limits. You can't be in 2-term or 1-term. You are in absolutely forever term. You have to make sure that the country is actually in safe hands, in good state, that the country can be passed from one government to another safely with the institutions safe. Now, don't be surprised that a lot of times, same policemen, some of these policemen who engage in these very nasty activities, end up saluting the people they victimize. Well, in the case of Raila, they had to salute a coffin. And I think that happened, because some of these things are not sustainable. My last point, Yvonne, and it's something that came up in the discussion here when the Honorable Martha Karua was hosted on Sunday Live, that of what is happening in the region, and if it's probably inspiring some of the political habits that we are seeing in Kenya. You know, in Tanzania, they had something that we cannot sit here and honestly call an election. In Uganda, for the 7th time, they had what I can only actually describe as a civilian coup. That's how they do it, where basically you chase the main presidential contender, make sure he can't address rallies, make sure he can't live in his home for the election night and even after. By the way, is Bobby Wine back home? I don't know.
No.
Whether he's back home. Now, if these are some of the models inspiring the bad manners we are seeing, whether in Othaya or Kitengela, where the police somehow try to behave like Ugandans, this is Kenya. This model is not sustainable. The last time it was tried, in 2007, we nearly lost this country. We nearly completely lost the country because there is a difference between us and our neighbors. There's a reason we're here and they're not. And that's why for state officers, exercise a bit more restraint, just be the adult in the room. Politics is a competition, and in a multi-party democracy, it means that all the parties must have room to compete very, very in an impartial space, and they should protect those opposition people that are going to meet there in the same way they are protecting the president as he goes around campaigning, just as early as the opposition campaigners are also engaging.
And I want us to talk about a bit of the politics now, because in this country a lot can happen in a day, in a weekend, in a month. Would you believe that all of this has happened even preceding the violence that we saw on Sunday? There were some events that preceded that, even though, as I understand it, that Kitengela rally had already been planned even before Edwin Sifuna's removal or suspension, shall we say, as Secretary General of the Orange Democratic Movement. This is how it unfolded.
Having deliberated on matters relating to the conduct of the Secretary General, Senator Edwin Sifuna, the NEC resolved to remove him from office with immediate effect in accordance with the party constitution and applicable laws.
And this is why they've made that decision.
The NEC expressed grave concern over the rising levels of indiscipline within the party, particularly at the senior leadership level. The committee underscored that ODM is governed by its constitution, the rule of law, and collective decision-making through its duly constituted organs.
And this is why the Central Committee and the party leader, Dr. Oburu Oginga, are unhappy.
I'm not very happy that when we pass resolutions here, some of the members of this committee, some of the members of the Central Committee, who are policymakers of this party, go out to say exactly the contrary of what we have agreed in committees.
And subsequently, there's a new sheriff in town.
Effectively, the Deputy Secretary General, Honorable me, yours truly, Catherine Omanyo, will act in this position until a substantive holder of the position is elected.
And Honorable me then had an important announcement to make.
The NEC resolved to convene a National Delegates Convention, NDC, in Nairobi on 27th March 2026. The NDC shall, among other agenda items, deliberate on the party's strategic direction, ratify key decisions of the party organs, and prepare ODM for the forthcoming general elections.
So, Jay, perhaps maybe you can look into a crystal ball, if you will, what that NDC will look like, considering the events we've seen thus far, and we're about a little over a month away from that. Now see what's happened from the time this announcement was made till where we are today. What's that going to look like?
I hope it happens. That is one.
Yep.
And I hope it transacts the business of the party. Suffice to say, I think ahead of that NDC, ODM needs to do a few things. And this is a free advisory to them. One is that the optics needs to be managed better. What we are seeing around ODM is not what usually is supposed to be ODM. It is important to say that I think apart from KANU, I see the other party that I see that is very resilient in this country is ODM. KANU is fizzling out. I hope ODM is not fizzling out. But if that is a possibility, then they need to really reflect and retreat, find out what exactly they need to do to hold together, because that is the only way that they can remain formidable as a political party in this country. That is the only way they can do everything that they're saying they want to do, either the sides that are leading towards Dr. Oburu Oginga, or the side that is now being championed by say Governor James Orengo, Edwin Sifuna, Babu Owino, and the like. Ultimately, ahead of 2027, ODM must negotiate for its future. It must negotiate for its future from within. I really don't think they have room to wiggle out of what is happening currently from the position they are in. They must decide that they are going or facing the future as a team or perish as a team.
Those negotiations going forward are interesting because one of those is in this pre-election pact, what seat will who get? And they've openly said, by the way, you know, we're in it and we want to get these positions. But something seems to be troubling ODM at this point, whether it is they want the number 2 seat or not. In December, they said they were going for nothing less. By January, they said, no, don't worry, we don't want that. And then again now, let's listen to Dr. Oburu Oginga, a change of heart again.
Nilisema ya kwamba huyo deputy president hatuna nini chuki na yeye kwa binafsi. Yeye binafsi hatuna maneno naye, lakini hiyo kiti ni kiti ya public. Hiyo kiti ya deputy president ndio tunalenga sana. Hiyo ndio tunalenga.
And these negotiations are happening out in the open because the reactions to that were swift.
As far as we are in broad-based government as one government or broad-based government, the seat of the deputy president is not negotiable. It has to remain with Professor Kithure Kindiki.
CS Ruku weighed in as well.
Jameni, Oburu 2032 ODM tutaachia kwamba imepata kiti ya naibu wa rais, deputizing Professor Kithure Kindiki tukimweka pale Ikuru.
Na Kiambaa MPJ?
Pia tunasema wakuje juu, waende chini, waende kando, hatuachili. Kama kuna kitu inaweza fanya tutoke kwa hii serikali na hiyo muungano, ni kiti ya namba 2. Tunaambia ODM wa relax.
Member of National Assembly Alice Ng'ang'a also weighed in.
Naibu wa rais usiku na mchana ni Kithure Abraham. How to get a non-negotiable.
And the man in question who currently occupies that seat then had this to say.
Usibabaishwe na mambo kidogo ambao mnasikia hapa na pale. Hii mambo mengine yote ya siasa, sisi ndio mafundi wa siasa, my friend. Usione vile tuko, sisi ndio mafundi wa siasa. Hatuongeagi sana. We know we talk at the right time.
And for avoidance of doubt,
na musiletewe wasiwasi na mambo madogo yale watu wanaongea, watu wa siasa. Mimi ndio deputy president wa Kenya, na hii kiti hakuna mahali kinaenda, na tukitoka hapa tukitoka hapa hakuna kurudi nyuma, ni kusonga mbele.
When you look at all those voices, what do they want? Because really, it's very clear who the deputy president is in this country. It's very clear who the president is. It's very clear who the senator of Siaya is. It is very clear who the woman representative for Busia is, and indeed the member of parliament for Thika or Kiamba. So what are they telling people? I mean, Kenyans, this is nothing to do with you. And I don't know how many times we need to say this. The next election is in about 17 months, above 16 months. There are real issues that the Kenyans are facing, whether it's collection of garbage in Nairobi, whether it's insecurity in the neighborhoods, whether the question about access to water, access to food in 18 counties. 3.3 million Kenyans are hungry.
Yeah.
But we spend so much time moving about this country to speak about what you want in the next election. Yet they have not even finished the work that they were hired to do in 2022. Because whether it's one term or two term, a term is 5 years, not 3.5, not 4. It is full 5 years. So really, to listen to this, it's extremely disheartening that our leaders would actually miss the point. Talk to us about Singapore, but do everything else that goes against where Singapore is. I wonder if some of these leaders even know how to locate on the global map. But looking at it, I think there's a serious conversation that is being missed here because it's been 3.5 years and Kenyans have seen what the current elected leaders have done for this country, from the national government to county government to the assemblies to the National Assembly to the Senate. What they've been able to do, the impact their decisions have had on the people, the challenges that Kenyans continue to face, never mind the flowery stories we hear of improvement of the economic indicators. The reality of the matter is there are some challenges that Kenyans are facing in all the areas that I've mentioned, including the education sector. And if generations are not going to think about it, and especially the younger generation, which will continue to insist, the meetings we've seen, and I remember as you were talking about the violence that we witnessed in different parts of the country, the meetings we've seen, there looks to be a reawakening of the young people. These are people who have grown to supporting older political leaders. If you recall, you will, the 2002 election, the people that voted for Mwai Kibaki, the younger generation that voted for Mwai Kibaki, the first-time voters of 2002, how old are they now?
Right, yeah.
These are millennials, they're in their 40s.
Yeah.
What are they dealing with now? 20 years later, don't look at me, Jamila. What are they dealing with? 24 years later, yeah. They're dealing with real-life situations.
Right. The cost of education.
Just listen to what I'm saying. Yeah. So the
cost of education,
the voters of 2002, their parents today, the guys who were 18 that time, add some 24 years to that, they are 42.
Yeah.
These are parents of grade 10 learners, the CB classes. They are the ones who are facing these challenges. These are the parents who in urban areas are having to deal with traffic situations. They are taking their children to private institutions. They're opting out of the Kenyan curriculum because they don't have trust in it, because it has been politicized, because they are not sure about the future of their children. And then you come and tell us about Hindio Tunalenga or tell us about two-term and one-term. They have real issues that need to be addressed. So if any among them in their generation is going to come and tell them that this, I think, is the direction you should follow, trust me, they are going to listen. Yeah. And any leader who is worth that name, leader, that wants to lead this generation of millennials and Gen Zs, the younger people of this country, if they are not listening to the concerns that people have, if they're not addressing, if they're not thinking about solutions to them, they are better off forgetting the support from this voting bloc. So I would assume that the political class, instead of focusing so much on where is this meeting going or who is attending, who is financing what issues, and planting some funny situations that we've seen in some of these meetings, they're better off resolving. Go write your manifesto and see how you're going to resolve some of these concerns that the younger generation would be talking about.
Indeed. Linus?
This may affect Jamila a bit. Because I think Arsenal last won Premier League one.
We are going there.
Yes, we are.
2-3.
Can some recall?
2-3, 2-4. Yeah?
This
Sorry?
is unfair.
Can some recall?
No, he's only read about it.
He'll read about
in
it.
history.
Yes, that's 2004 actually. And ODM was formed in 2005.
Yeah.
That is how long their quest for political power has been.
Thank God.
And there are reasons, and let me be brutally honest here. There are reasons that power evades ODM. First, the party has been cast with very weak negotiators who don't understand that politics is a bone-breaking game. It's ruthless. It's decisive. Because I'm wondering how ODM right now, under the leadership of Dr. Oburu Odinga, is talking about getting the deputy presidency in 2027. Ruthless political operatives would have given ODM a chance at the deputy presidency when they were impeaching Gachagua. What did ODM get for impeaching Rigathi Gachagua? What did it get? It's a question. They got a broad-based government. What did they get for basically backing President Ruto in his weakest point when the Gen Zs were trying to run the government out of town? ODM basically got nothing. What they got was as per the terms that were decided by President Ruto. In 2027, whichever form this arrangement is going to take, if ODM is going to work with UDA, it'll be within the terms of President William Ruto. And I'm sure the next question is, will President William Ruto replace Kindiki Kithure, Professor Kindiki Kithure? Many times he has said, if it's not broken,
don't fix
it. And this is a long shot for Dr. Oburu. Power. It's really a long shot for ODM to think of getting the position of deputy presidency. Because in essence, President Ruto, though he is struggling in what used to be a stronghold that's called Mount Kenya, he's not going to give it up easily. There's a formula that they came up with, which is Mount Kenya East, which is where Professor Kindiki comes from. So Mount Kenya East is about Embu, is about Tharaka Nithi, is about Meru. And that narrative was used quite successfully in the by-elections of Mbeere North. So that UDA has already tested its experiment for 2027. They're looking for the rest of the country, but also find a footing within Mount Kenya. President Ruto is not going to give out Mount Kenya without a fight. And one of the things that he'll do is to actually retain Deputy President Professor Kindiki Kithure as running mate. And there are reasons for that. One is regional. The second one is Kindiki has proved himself a perfect deputy president. Not troublesome. He's not Rigathi Gachagua. He's not shown ambition of his own. He's spoken about the president. He is the deputy president in the mold of the old days, which is you are totally loyal to the president. Why would President Ruto replace Kindiki with who? Dr. Oburu?
Good question.
Yeah.
And maybe one that leaves us leaving some food for thought. Jamila, I've been doing your work for such a long time, so please. Yes.
Though umeongea vibaya kuhusu Arsenal LK, sawa tu, you can finish.
No, it was an illustration.
No, for example.
How do you lose a 2-0 lead? That is Bomas 2022.
Atuende hapo.
Do you want to tell them you also support Arsenal?
I am a fan of Arsenal and a frustrated fan of Arsenal.
Wewe tulikutoa kama shareholder.
But there are a lot of similarities of tactics between ODM and Arsenal.
Tumekutoa.
So,
Linda,
anze, yeah?
Wanateta.
National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi has just made a groundbreaking discovery, a great treasure whose discovery he announced at the National Treasury boardroom here in Nairobi. Hint, hint, the treasure has 3 letters.
It's true, yes. I am a cabinet secretary. I am the cabinet secretary of National Treasury, but it is also not disputable that I'm a Luo. And by the way, I am now the senior most member of our community in the government of the Republic of Kenya.
Now, for those who were unclear about the ethnic origins of the Treasury CS, now you know. And if for whatever reason you thought Mbadi was Suba, you stand corrected. Let's go back to the Treasury boardroom.
We, as the members of the Luo community, have gone through a lot in the politics of this country, including total marginalization in matters development.
Now, my fact check on that, largely true. Yes, it is a fact that for intermittent episodes between 1966 and 2026, which is now, members of the Luo community have experienced particular suffering. In fact, the first Suba, or sorry, should I say Luo, to run Treasury was the legendary Thomas Joseph Mboya, or simply Tom Mboya. He was gunned down in broad daylight on the streets of Nairobi, marking the absolute turning point in the systematic marginalization of the Luo community. This is a fact.
The extent I'm told that the person who was lost in Ketangala is a Luo. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And Luos, we have lost lives. I don't think it is necessary at this time.
Away from last weekend's very tragic events in Kitengela, CS Mbadi, who, by the way, was meeting elders from the Luo Council of Elders, is looking ahead with a solid plan for his 3-letter word, treasure.
You are going to see a bigger meeting of the Luo community in Nairobi, especially the elders. We are planning a meeting, which we will announce later, where we are going to bring in all the elders of the Luo community in Nairobi. And
now, that is for Nairobi. And hang on, there's a plan for the countryside.
After dealing with the issues of Nairobi, we will also again embark on visiting other towns in the country where we have significant presence of the Luo community, more particularly Mombasa, Eldoret, and many others across the country. So,
as for the choice of the party, a small reminder that ODM is also a 3-letter word.
It is true that ODM is a national party, but it is equally true that the foundation of ODM is actually the Luo community.
Wow, impressive stuff, CS. For the 8 minutes he spoke, CS John Mbadi mentioned the word Luo 16 times. That gives us the rate of 2 times per minute. The word community, 18 times. The context of all this is the 2027 elections and its related mobilization. Now, this is all well. Tribe is indeed something to be proud of. And in fact, I am just following this as a very proud Maasai, and I can't help wondering, what can John Mbadi Ng'ong'o tell Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua? Utaambia Rigathi nini? Somebody give them a boat. Iko shida Manyata. That's my kicker.
"18 months to a general election. That is how far we are from the next national poll. And yet, you would be forgiven for thinking we are weeks away from voting day. The country is in full campaign mode, from the ruling side to the opposition benches, from those declaring agendas to those baptizing themselves as the conscience of the Republic, from prayer rallies to Meet the People tours, from fund drives to so-called consultative forums, from roadside addresses to carefully choreographed town halls. Everyone is on the road. And here's the part that should trouble us most. These campaigns began even before electoral commissioners were sworn in, even before an electoral body has even declared an official campaign period, before any Gazette notice could legally open the season. We're campaigning in a vacuum. Under Kenya's electoral framework, principally the Elections Act, campaigns are not supposed to be permanent. The campaign period is meant to be formally declared by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. You see, in 2025, the High Court of Kenya made it clear campaigning outside the gazetted period is unconstitutional and illegal. The court warned about precisely what we're now witnessing, a country trapped in endless electioneering. Yet here we are, campaigns without a declared campaign period, mobilization without regulation, political messaging without accountability, and no side, not one, appears willing to pause and ask whether the rule of law applies to them too. All of this is happening as if 3 million Kenyans are not staring at hunger, as if the grade 10 transition crisis is not confronting parents and students with uncertainty over infrastructure and preparedness, as if petty and serious crime are not rising in cities like Nairobi, where insecurity is no longer an abstract debate, but a lived experience. It's as if youth unemployment is not a daily emergency, as if the cost of living has magically resolved itself, as if hospitals are not strained, as if climate shocks are not displacing families, as if public trust in institutions is not fragile. Instead, we have convoys, rallies, fundraisers, alignments and realignments, coalitions before coalitions are even legally necessary. Noise. We have leaders behaving as though governance is a side hustle and campaigning is the main job. Perhaps the most unsettling development is this. Political meetings and groupings are now being hosted in national institutions meant to serve all Kenyans. State House is a public institution. The National Treasury, too, is a public institution. They are not party headquarters. They are not ethnic community halls. Yet we're seeing gatherings that are unmistakably political, sometimes explicitly tribal, taking place within spaces that are constitutionally meant for national purpose. When a cabinet secretary convenes a meeting of his own ethnic community within Treasury to discuss community issues and to position himself politically, what signal does that send? That the state is neutral? Or that state power is simply a platform for early succession politics? We cannot on one hand preach national cohesion and on the other normalize ethnic political caucuses within the machinery of government. We cannot insist on the rule of law and simultaneously act as if campaign laws are optional. What is perhaps most telling is that there is no clean side here. Those in government say they're engaging citizens. Those in opposition say they're mobilizing for accountability. Those declaring a new moral order say they're offering an alternative. But who among them is willing to say, let us respect the law on campaign timelines? Who is willing to voluntarily step back? Who is willing to say, governance first, politics later? If the High Court has spoken, where is the urgency to legislate clear sanctions? Where is the self-restraint? Where is the example? You see, good governance is not something you promise at a rally. It is something you practice, especially when it inconveniences you. Perpetual campaigns distort priorities, and they advantage the loudest and the best funded. They exhaust citizens, they deepen division, and they hollow out governance. When leaders spend more time counting political numbers than solving national problems, the country becomes a stage, not a state. And perhaps that is the deeper question we must ask. Are we a republic preparing carefully for an election in due course? Or are we a political marketplace permanently in season? 18 months is a long time in the life of a nation struggling with hunger, insecurity, and institutional strain. The law anticipated this danger. The court warned about it. The only thing missing now is political will by all politicians. And that absence, more than any rally, should concern us. That's my take tonight.
In the last 2 days, Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, has sounded the alarm that tear gas canisters are in the hands of civilians, which he now wants investigations, and has tasked the Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, to find out how this happened.
The Inspector General of Police is investigating all those incidences to see whether there are some civilians who have tear gas, and these are resources that are not supposed to be in civilian hands, or whether there are police officers who are colluding with civilians and giving them tear gas canisters. It's the same problem. It's not unique to tear gas only.
Yule mtu amefukuzwa ODM anaitwa nani?
Sifuna.
Edwin Sifuna. Kwani huyo Sifuna ndio nani?
Mimi ndio Sifuna.
One purpose, law enforcement, primarily for use by the National Police Service. This is not sugar or rice or maize that passes through the open tender system. Every single canister that enters this country is procured through a non-supplier, logged through a controlled supply chain, issued through a documented structure, assigned to a specific officer, recorded before deployment, and accounted after use. That is how a discipline of service works. In fact, police procedures already answer the question that you now want investigated. For the avoidance of doubt, here is how it works, once again, CS Murkomen. An officer commanding a station must sign for every round of ammunition, every firearm, and every tear gas canister issued. There are registers, movements, and records for before and after action. When they are returned, this is logged. So if a canister is in the hand of a civilian, we are not dealing with an unknown. We are dealing with a broken down system or an abuse of the very system. This is what in other sectors like agriculture and pharmaceutical is called traceability. The ability to track an item one step back and one step forward. It is widely used in these sectors. And without a doubt, the security agencies are supposed to live by this. The policing structure in this country dates back to over a century, to the days of the East African Protectorate. Surely, in 2026, we cannot claim we do not know where state-controlled crowd control equipment came from. You do not launch investigations to discover what your inventory system should already be telling you. You demand an audit, an explanation from the custodians. So CS Murkomen, you enforce command responsibility in this, because the officer who signed for this equipment are not faceless. They're no strangers. They're the very people who line up parades during your ministerial visits. They brief you and escort you, as well as usher you into their stations across the country. Look at them into the eye and ask for the records. Anything else looks like a theater funded by taxpayers. That is my bone tonight.